Hello and welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show. I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here each and every Tuesday with the Smart Chiropractor Show, and we have an array of segments to help you build and grow your practice. Jason, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing great. This is the place to tune in every Tuesday to tune in and tune up your practice, whether it's your personal life, your relationships, your finances, your staff, your team, your care, your science, your communications. We're talking about a lot of those different things, and it's great. I'm excited to be here, and I love talking to chiropractors about chiropractic stuff. So let's have another great show this week.
I could not agree more. Let's kick it off with our Mindset Mentor segment. Here we go. Smart Chiropractor Show, Mindset Mentor segment. Jason, we are going to talk today about a topic that I hadn't thought about. I had never even heard brought up until you and I started discussing this a few months ago, and you started to develop this concept around the 5 types of new patients. And this is so important for any docs out there. If you are spending any money on advertising, if you're doing any marketing whatsoever, this is a segment that you're going to want to pay attention to, because it's probably not how you thought or considered patient acquisition in the past. Jason, with that, I'm going to kick it over to you to talk down what are the 5 types of new patients and why do docs out there need to pay attention to this incredibly important concept.
You know, you and I have been spending the last several years really helping chiropractors understand what we refer to as real marketing. And the challenge, the headwinds that we faced every time we do that is that the listeners, chiropractors, typically, are polite. They listen. They go, that's interesting. Wow, never thought of it that way before. And then they end up with this conclusion of, but is it going to get me more new patients? And after, I'd say more than a decade or so of, both of us in different ways, really trying to help chiropractors understand what chiropractors try to get their patients to understand, which is the concept of a process versus an event, right? That there's a difference between finding and correcting the cause of your problem and healing through your issue versus just masking the symptom for quick relief. Of course, we'll park the hypocrisy to the side for right now and just stay on topic, which is that chiropractors have been marketed to by marketers to really misunderstand the real sense of growing your practice. And so, like the public has, through the pharmaceutical industry's influence, learned to ask questions like, well, isn't there a drug for that can get me feeling better immediately? That's the common question, right? You go, well, let's try to heal it. Let's try to find the cause. You don't need drugs. You can use your hands only. People are brainwashed to go, huh? What? That doesn't make any sense. And of course, that's silly. Well, when it comes to marketing, many chiropractors unfortunately do the same thing that the public does. And that's misunderstand how this whole thing is supposed to work. So let's get to the point. We developed that there are 5 types of new patients so that you have a better understanding of what to do to reach your goals. So let's break them down. I'm going to go through them quickly, and then we can sort of deconstruct them individually afterwards. But the number one best new patient you could possibly ask for moving forward is to make sure that you have processes, systems, and most importantly, communication programs in place to keep your current patients. Now, that sounds so ridiculously obvious, like, well, the best thing you could do is to be healthy. But the reality is it's 100% true. And unless you've got habits in place, and in business terms, systems in place, then it's ultimately going to fail for you. There's no way that you can medicate your way to better health. I'm not saying drugs are bad. I'm not saying you shouldn't take medicine. I'm not saying there's not a time and place for emergency care. What I'm saying is it's definitely not the prescription for health. Just like more new patients will never be the prescription for practice growth unless you've got systems in place to keep your current patients. Let me make it super simple. If you have a bucket and you pour, metaphorically, new patients water, you pour something into the bucket, and if the hole at the bottom of the bucket is the same size as the hole in the top of the bucket, you can get as many new patients as you can possibly ask for and dream of. You can see the cycle. If nothing sticks and stays, then you're on an addictive cycle to constantly need to pour more new whatever, water or new patients into the bucket, and you never win. And yet that's the way many, if not most, chiropractors in today's world actually think of. This is a mindset segment. That's how most chiropractors think of their practice. You go, what kind of systems do you have in place to communicate with the patients who have been seeing you for all this time? What? What do you mean? What? We call them when they miss their appointments. We call them if they've missed after 30 days. Most do not have an ongoing, let's call it lifestyle habit or business process in order to be able to make sure that the people that come stick around. That doesn't mean you're convincing them to do something they don't want to do. It doesn't mean you're forcing everyone to stay forever. None of those things. It means that you've got systems and processes in place around communication strategies that continue to provide value for the people that came in to see you at one time. You did the hard part. You encouraged them. You attracted them. You had something that got them into your practice. And the key is to encourage those that are right for your practice to stick around. So let's fly through them. The best new patient you could possibly ask for is keeping your current patient. The second best new patient you can ask for is a referral from your current patient, a friend, a family member, coworker, neighbor, coworker of your current people. Why? Every chiropractor knows the difference between somebody referred and somebody who comes in from a discount ad. You know the difference. The third best type of new patient is somebody who's following you, somebody who's already on your email list or somebody who follows you on social media, that you have proactive communications that focus on providing value to your audience so that they go, wow, that's interesting. I never knew that before. I should give this a try. Those are the three top types of new patients. Now let's move into a separate category. The fourth best type of new patient, this is when paid advertising starts kicking in. If you're going to invest or spend money, depending on your outcome, if you're going to invest or spend money on advertising, the best advertising you could possibly do is by advertising to the people already following you. It's called retargeting. So 1, 2, and 3 do not require money. They do not require advertising dollars. They are not sort of dollars that are flushed down the drain in that once you paid for the ad and the ad is run, that's all you got for it. So the fifth best type of new patient is the type of new patient most chiropractors are all paying premiums to try to compete and attract. And that's the stranger, oftentimes looking for a discount, oftentimes looking for quick relief, and may or may not have insurance to cover it, and may or may not be your ideal target client. So mindset matters because the things you do, the things you pay for or invest in have to do with the way you think about them. And if you're like most chiropractors, continuing to believe what I think is a fallacy, that the most important thing you can be doing is to be attracting more new patients without putting in systems in place to make sure that those top 3 patients continue to see you, then you're missing the boat, in our opinion. And unfortunately, that's why many chiropractors we've spoken to over the I can say decades, I can't believe it's been that long, but it's true, over the decades, just continue to stay stuck like the rest of the world continues to stay stuck. Where's the drug for my quick relief to get me out of pain so I can get back to the things that got me in trouble in the first place? And that's often the way chiropractors think of marketing, which unfortunately is limited to advertising for most chiropractors most of the time. Since you're watching the Smart Chiropractor show, we're here to break and dispel those myths. Jeff, what did I miss on all of that? Maybe let's break down free content marketing versus paid advertising and how each of those appeals to each of those different markets.
That's a great question, Jason, and I don't think you missed a thing. The key aspect there is what you described, which is understanding that there is a difference, first of all, just being aware that there is a difference between content marketing for free and paid advertising. The second component of that is I like to think of it like the meal. Content marketing is the meal, and the salt should be the paid advertising. A little bit can go a long way, but if a little bit too much and overdoes it, and you certainly ruin a good thing. So a little bit of paid advertising, specifically in the retargeting realm, can be a fantastic idea to get a practice, juiced up, to get a little bit of that extra little bit of edge, but it's not the meal. You can't replace the meal with a pile of salt. So that's a key aspect of the difference between the two. Now, I like to think of it, we're focused on content marketing within the Smart Chiropractor. There's no, hidden aspects of that. And I like to think of it that our docs have an advantage because we do things differently. And that's what it comes down to. So when you focus on content first through a teach and invite strategy, it gives you the opportunity to really build trust, to build relationships, to play that long game, and to establish your brand all during the same course of time. Yes, you're attracting new patients. Yes, you can improve your retention. Yes, you can have more consistent reactivations coming in. That's a byproduct of the actions that you take each and every day. And I think, the pillar of all marketing within the chiropractic space should be content first. And this isn't a controversial thought whatsoever. Who knows what chiropractors do? Nobody, right? Most chiropractors don't know what another chiropractor does. So do we think that education and a teach and invite philosophy is a good idea? Of course we do. Even if we had 50% utilization, I'd probably still say the same thing. However, when we hover around 10 to 15, some people say we're close to 20. I'm going to say we're probably closer to 7 or 8 personally, percent utilization. We got a long way to go for people to have a better understanding of who we are and what we do as a profession. But as that speaks to you locally, Doc, the question is, what are you doing to get that message out there? And that's where content marketing, consistent communication, teaching and inviting consistently, as we like to call it, really focuses upon those top 3 new patient types. And that is going to be the cheapest, the most ideal, and the most sustainable long-term. Jason, those are my thoughts. How do you think about that?
You brought up a really important point, again, that most chiropractors, when they hear, go, well, that's obvious, but don't think about. And that is putting out messaging about chiropractic in general does not give your audience, give the reader, the listener, the watcher, any particular deeper understanding of why they should choose you as a chiropractor. And as you mentioned, Jeff, and it's 100% true, again, we all know it, chiropractors do different things, for better and for worse. However you want to see that, the reality is you could line 10 chiropractors up in front of a group of chiropractors, and none of them could tell you which chiropractor does what, even though they all have the same degree and the same title. So we do ourselves a disservice by simply advertising chiropractic services, because the fact is nobody really knows what that means in your office. And that is a shortcoming that is always going to be there until we think of it differently and therefore do different things. And the number one most important thing you can be doing is distinguishing yourself, distinguishing your practice, highlighting your specialties, focusing on your target audience of who you most like to work with and who most likes to work with you, who gets the best results, best outcomes. Who are the people that really look to you and get the highest value? Meaning they would be willing to invest the most and stick around the longest. Unless you're putting messaging out like that on a consistent basis, then the people you attract, it's almost like blind dating with no filters, that you just never know who's going to walk in for what reasons. And yet, if you can start saying, I'm looking for this kind of person with these kinds of hobbies and these kinds of activities, maybe even this type of socioeconomic level, then you're going to have a higher percentage shot of making sure you're attracting your ideal client. And that's not just selfish for you, that's good for your staff and your team, and that's even better for people because nobody likes to waste their time, I guess I'll say, except for one group of people, and that's deal shoppers. Deal shoppers are more than willing to drive across town and spend minutes, if not hours, to go get a deal. And wouldn't it be interesting to know that level 5 type new patients are exactly that kind of person? They're looking for deals. They're coming in because it's the cheapest massage in town. And okay, if you try to upsell them on something else, they don't mind. They took the deal. It's like the timeshare deal. You go, you get the benefit, you sit through the 2 hours, you've got the time, you may not have the money, and you're willing to spend your time in order to be able to save a few bucks. If that's your ideal client, then keep the advertising game going, the discount advertising game, that is. And if you recognize the insanity in all of that, which hopefully you do, then you start realizing maybe you got to start thinking differently about it. And the first step is to start thinking about content marketing, free content marketing. What's your message? Who's your audience? And how can you best connect on a consistent basis? We call it TIC, teach and invite consistently. The only question you've got to ask is, what are you going to teach? Who are you going to teach it to? And how are you going to build systems to keep it consistently? That's the secret formula for Mindset this week. That's my 2 cents.
I could not agree more. This is a very important concept. If you are looking to build and grow your practice and you have not considered these 5 types of new patients, rewind this video a little bit once we finish, take a look at that graphic, really get familiar with it, and then dial in, okay, where am I spending time, effort, and energy? Because that is really going to determine the results that you get. And without further ado, Jason, we're going to move on to our clinical conversations. This week, we have a fantastic guest talking about athletes in a chiropractic practice, but I'm going to save that until after our intro. Here we go into clinical conversations. All right, clinical conversations on the Smart Chiropractor show. This week, we are going to highlight a featured guest from our Axis event earlier in 2021, Dr. Josh Satterlee, Clinic Gym Hybrid Model. He is put together a fantastic presentation around managing athletes through progression and regression in your practice. I don't think there's a chiropractor out there that doesn't treat an athlete of some kind. As we like to say, there's an athlete in all of us. But we'll let Dr. Josh Satterlee take it away with a little bit of how you can best manage athletes through progression and regression in your practice right about now.
Hey, and welcome to this presentation about managing athletes through progressions and regressions. My name is Dr. Josh Satterlee, and I'm so excited that you're here. I'm glad you are part of this Axis Summit. I think this is a very exciting time and very exciting information. I looked at the lineup and there are some incredible speakers. So very excited that you're spending this time with me. My goal today in the next half hour is to go through some basics, I think, of an overview of how to manage athletes. Now, in my career, I have worked with quite a few athletes in my time, from professionals, NBA players, Major League Baseball players, professional golfers, and a lot of minor league and collegiate golfers. I have worked in the golf industry for a lot of years because, well, I like working with golfers and I like golfing. So I guess I live vicariously through my patients because typically they're much better than I am. But over the next 30 minutes, I want to go over some tips and tricks that I've learned for managing athletes and helping them progress, and discuss the ability for you to progress and regress your clients appropriately, because I think that's the secret tool to managing athletes. So once again, my name is Dr. Josh Satterlee. I live out here in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's currently 115 degrees outside as I record this. That's the downside of the desert. The upside is in the fall and spring, we get a ton of great days to play golf and have fun. So I guess it's a big trade-off. But I'm an instructor for the Titles Performance Institute. I also teach for the North American Sports Medicine Institute, which teaches mostly physical therapists. So I'm the lone chiropractor in that group, and it's great. I also teach for functional movement systems, teaching the SFMA. And I was an adjunct professor at Cleveland University, Kansas City, teaching the sports electives program. So I've been a chiropractor for 15 years. I love what we're doing, and I don't think there has ever been a better time to be a chiropractor. So thank you so much for joining me today. So how do we manage athletes? I think the most important thing with athletes that I've learned from both a clinical perspective and a marketing perspective, business does affect our clinical skills, but the most important thing you have to do is give that athlete a picture of a bigger future. And to me, what that means is, obviously for this runner, it's competing at the Olympics, right? That's probably her long-term goal. But it's not just with professional athletes or high-level Olympians. I work with golfers all the time, old, crusty, beat-up golfers that love playing the game. They have the time and money to do so, and they want to get better. And so if we can progress them to get better, they will stick with us as long as we want. So that's kind of how I manage. Now, how do you start that relationship? None of these four guys, I imagine, can do a heavy weighted squat as part of their rehab, although that might be what we want to end with. So what I've learned is we have to regress their exercises, their rehab, to a point where they can start to perform it and perform that without pain. If we can do that, then we can progress them on and they will stick with us. And we can manage that athlete because they will stick with us. If the athlete leaves, you can't manage them. So we're going to talk about how to do that and a simple system I have found for setting it up. So here's the typical overview of what I see in clinical care for people, especially athletes. First, you have to eliminate pain. In my experience, most athletes come into a chiropractor's office, even if it's attached to a gym, with the goal of eliminating some pain. Sometimes they want to eliminate a certain performance limiter, but most of the time it's to eliminate pain. Once they eliminate pain, we're going to help them retrain their movement. So what I mean by that is if they had pain with moving their shoulder to throw a baseball, we want to make sure they can move their shoulder without that pain and retrain it in a healthy range of motion. Once that can be accomplished, we want to help them what I call buy insurance. And how do we buy insurance? We reload the pattern. So instead of, if somebody has pain when they bend over to touch their toes, before they leave my office, I want to know they don't have pain while bending over with weight for multiple reps. I don't want to just know that they're pain-free on the table. I want to take them all the way into a loaded pattern so that we buy insurance. We know that they're not going to get re-injured, because I think that makes us look like a rookie. And I don't want to be a rookie. I want to play on the varsity squad. So we want to eliminate pain, then retrain movement, and then reload patterns. In my experience, and obviously my experience is different than yours, this can usually happen within one visit. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 visits, but usually in one visit, you can start eliminating pain, start retraining movements, and start reloading. If they're super acute, like a very acute disc herniation that also has some radiculopathy, it will take multiple days. But this should be part of almost every single visit. All right. Now, this also creates a great business model. Eliminating pain and retraining movements is the role of a clinic. When we get into reloading patterns, sure, there are some clinics that reload that include that in their business plan, but there are a lot of gyms that start at that reloading pattern and take it from there, progress it from there. So at the end, I'm going to talk about a business model that I think is the best, which includes all these aspects and a future bigger than the current setup, and that is what we call a clinic gym hybrid. We're going to add a gym onto a clinic so that it grows and you can keep progressing. But with that, let's go on. I'm making some assumptions in this presentation. Here's my assumptions. Number one, that you are an expert at assessing people and diagnosing correctly. If you haven't done that, there's a lot of training out there. I love the SFMA. I teach it because I think it's a great diagnostic system, but I think you got to be there. If you can't diagnose or you can't understand the injury or even get as granular as measuring range of motion and whatnot, that's the first goal rather than teaching progressions or regressions, which I'm going to cover here. Second thing, I'm going to assume, by the way, that you have a lot of tools in your bucket, that you have, you can maybe do dry needling, soft tissue work, obviously adjusting, and that you're very good at those things to eliminate pain. If you don't have that, I would recommend doing that first. But if you can already do that, let's help manage these athletes through progressing them through rehab exercises into big exercises. But it's built on the assumption that you can diagnose and treat to eliminate pain. If you can do those things, then let's move forward. So imagine the basis of regressions and progressions, which I think are the basis for managing athletes at a high level. Imagine you had a runner and She came into your office and reported, every time I lunge, I have pain in my knee, right? Based on that very simplistic model I presented before, obviously you're going to diagnose her, you're going to assess, and you're going to find out why she has pain in her knee. Upon getting close to discharge, I think one of the things we all agree on is that we want to eliminate that pain and make sure that she can do that pattern without pain. So I'd ask her to do an unloaded split squat in the office. It gets into similar ranges of motion of the knee, and it puts pressure on that structure to make sure that we're testing it properly. But what would be our end goal with that? Well, I think you'd want to add weight. And if we add weight, we would call that a progression. It's progressively getting harder, right? How much weight do you add? Well, we're going to talk about that later, but we want to progress her from just using her body weight to using external load. Now, let's say you run into trouble, because athletes oftentimes don't come in at the first sight of pain. They really ingrain that painful pattern because they're high-level competitors and they don't want to be slowed down. But they finally admit, hey, I do have a problem. She comes in and she can't do that split squat as part of a rehab. So what do you do then? Well, then we want to regress that exercise. We don't just say, hey, you can't do split squats, it's too painful. We want to regress it. And an easy regression for the split squat is to add a TRX. A TRX support allows her to offload some of the weight. We get into the same patterns, but more of the force can be handled in the upper body, and maybe that gives her the ability to perform it. So we have both a progression and a regression. And then that body weight split squat may be the standard that we're looking for, right? Now, we want to also establish maybe some weights that we want to progress to. We want to establish what's our baseline, things like that. But this is the basic idea of a progression and a regression. Start with a simple body weight exercise, progress it, and also be able to regress it as well. So how do you do this? I think that this needs to be, you need to have the ability to do this at every different exercise that you offer your patients. But so many times I see people can only figure it out by reducing weight. And I think that's a mistake. So we're going to cover some ways to do this, but I think there's a simple system that I call the BOPS system, all right? BOPS. What BOPS stands for is buckets, organize, prune, and standards. And what do I mean? First, identify the buckets of movement that you want to have, that you see athletes doing, that you see your patients doing. Second, organize all of the exercises in your rehab continuum into those buckets so that we can organize this and know which patterns really are affected and where we need to build more regressions and more progressions. Maybe we're lacking somewhere. Third, we're going to prune all the ones that don't work. Maybe they don't work in your facility for size, equipment, the population you work in, but we're going to prune some off. Like we might see great exercises out there, but they just don't work in our situation. That's fine. We're going to find the ones that really do work. And then finally, we're going to set a standard or an expectation, a certain level for that exercise or for that bucket of exercise. And that standard can be standard upon discharge, like we expect you to reach this level before we boot you, or we can accept that as our goal for all of our athletes to have their bucket full to that level, right? So we see that kind of like, think about like a physical aptitude test or maybe going in the military. They say, hey, our standard is running 1.5 miles in 12 minutes. That's just their standard, and you have to fill that bucket. Some people may run it much faster, and if you can't run it in 12 minutes, they want to know why. Build our buckets, organize our exercises, prune off the ones that don't work, and then set a standard for that bucket. All right. So first step is create your buckets. And here's kind of what I think of this. All of the exercises that we give our patients all can be basically put into a certain bucket of movement. So let's think about the squat bucket. Here we go. So that could be wall balls, right? That could be box jumps, right? And that could be the goblet squat. But all of those exercises, if we look fundamentally, are versions of squats. So I would call this the squat bucket. We want them to have an ankle, knee, hip, and spine strategy to perform this. They need to be able to resist the flexion and extension of their spine while moving their lower body. And then these can just be a progression and regression. So in this case, I would say that goblet squat's probably the most regressed of these three exercises. And depending on the amount of load, I would say that the box jump is the most progressed. Wall ball is between those two. And that's assuming that the ball is not super heavy on the wall balls. But maybe if that ball gets really heavy, that's a progression instead of box jumps. But it's for you to decide and organize, and we'll talk about how to do that. So let's look at some other exercises. All right, here's a woman doing a one-arm cable pull. All right, she's sitting down, one-arm cable pull. And here's a guy doing a rope climb. Are these a similar exercise? And finally, we have our TRX row. right? So what would you call all these exercises? I think they all end up in one bucket. Can you think of what bucket it is? We would call that the horizontal pulling bucket, AKA rowing, okay? If you think about the motion of the arm and the upper extremity in all those exercises, it's basically the same. We go from a protracted shoulder blade and an extended arm into a flexed arm and a retracted, depressed shoulder blade, right? It's in the end goal, that's it. Even that rope climb that looks nothing like that TRX row is going from protraction to retraction, going from extension to flexion. It's very simple. So we can classify all those. Obviously, the TRX rows might be the easiest, although in this case, I would say the seated row would be the easiest because you're fully supported by that chair. TRX row, now we're involving your core and stability, and then obviously the rope climb is probably the toughest or the most progressed out of all those exercises. So how many buckets are there? Well, let's talk about it. I think there are 10 buckets that we can put all of our exercises in. There's that horizontal row bucket that we just saw in the TRX row, rope climb, and seated cable pull. Then we have horizontal push, and that'd be like push-ups. We have our vertical pulling bucket, which would be pull-ups, vertical pushing bucket, which would be like an overhead press. Then we have hip hinge, which would be a deadlift or kettlebell swing. We have single leg hip hinge, and that would be like a single leg RDL. We have our squat pattern. Obviously, that'd just be like an air squat. And then our split squat pattern, which I think a rear foot elevated split squat is kind of the standard there. Then we have core exercises that are anti-extension, like planks, right? We don't want to see that sagging, extended lumbar spine. And we have anti-rotation core exercises like the Palloff press and exercises like that. So I would challenge you. I think that there's 10 buckets. You might know of an 11th, 12th, or you might say, hey, I combined two. I recently, up till last year, I didn't split the hip hinge and single leg hip hinge. I now do that because I think it's probably in my training, in my athletes, I would say 2/3 of it is a single leg hip hinge, and then 1/3 is a bilateral stance deadlift. I do the same thing with squat pattern. I want to see them squat on one leg and squat with two legs. Those single leg exercises are more like sport. If you look at almost every sport, running, jumping, basketball, soccer, all these things, you see a lot more single leg patterns than you do bilateral stance. Ironically, my favorite sport, golf, is a bilateral stance, but we do a lot of single leg training because it also shows us deficits that we might not see in our athletes. Anyway, so there's 10 buckets. Now, what if you work in a special population? Hey, I work with baseball pitchers. You might add in an 11th bucket that's all about arm care, right? I don't know that population that well, although I know a few folks that work in it, and they always seem to be doing a lot of work about arm and shoulder care. Totally fine. What if you work in a special population of old geezers, as my father-in-law calls them, but old people? Maybe you say, hey, we want to have a bucket of the ability to get up and down off the ground, right? That's super important in this world. So we need to make sure that we train it as a focus of exercise. But these are the 10 priorities of training of exercise, right? Is these big patterns of movement. I have one client who works with a lot of gymnasts. So actually, she does a lot of work in the wrist and forearm because it's such a big player. Wrist, hand, and forearm, it's such a big player in gymnasts. That's one of their buckets. That's totally fine. All right. Maybe you work with a lot of soccer players. You want to go laterally. That's an excellent bucket to add in. Or maybe you want to just say, instead of single leg squats, we're going to do lateral lunges, something like that. Fantastic. That's up to you, but I would just say create those buckets and then start organizing all your exercises in that. So with that, remember too, that certain exercises can be in multiple buckets. And if you're looking for training efficiency or rehab efficiency, this is a great way to do it, is bias towards exercises that incorporate multiple patterns. Excuse me. And in this one, this guy is doing a cable lunge and a row. And actually what I see is he's doing a single leg deadlift almost here, single leg deadlift. So he's getting that hinge pattern, he's getting the row pattern. And because that he only has one handle of that rowing machine, I think he's getting an anti-rotation core exercise as well. So this is hitting a lot of good stuff here. This is awesome. I love exercise like this. They're super efficient and high effectiveness. So remember, exercise may be in multiple buckets at the same time. Okay. So what do we do next? Well, now, once we have our buckets, we got to start organizing all of our exercises in there. And so this is what I would call the Instagram challenge. There are so many exercises on Instagram. It's fantastic, but we want to just make sure we know what bucket they end up in. So when we have a patient or an athlete who needs an exercise in that bucket, we can easily select the exercise out of there and know, is one exercise easier or harder than the other? So we're going to organize. So I just grabbed a clip from Eric Christie and his Christie Sports Performance down in Massachusetts. And here's a baseball pitcher doing a lateral lunge to one arm cable row, right? And the right leg on this athlete is moving. It's moving to the right, and he does a lateral lunge. Now, so what buckets does this fill? Well, definitely it's a one arm row. So we're going to get that horizontal pull. I think we're also getting the anti-rotation bucket. And I think we're also getting that lateral squat bucket. Now, in my version, I don't put lateral squats any different than regular squats. But if you work in a population that moves laterally a lot, or you want to create some more power in that, then adding that 11th bucket of lateral squats will do it. In my world, I would say this is just one of many squats we do. So I'm just going to put it in the squat bucket, the horizontal row bucket, and maybe some rotation bucket. Of all of those, I think it challenges the squatting pattern the most, and then the horizontal row the second, and then rotation the third. I don't think it's going to be that challenging of a rotational exercise, but I think it's fantastic that it can go in all three buckets. You can decide where you want to do this.
That was Dr. Josh Satterlee with our clinical conversations on the Smart Chiropractor Show, managing athletes through progression and regression. My big takeaway from that are a couple different things. Number one, I love the concept of buckets, simplifying things. That enables just like a phone number, the first couple, and then the last, it allows you to store more information up here, which is always good. There's a lot of joints in the body. There are so many exercises that you could do that having a system and a process to be able to classify them can be so helpful then when you see that athlete inside of your own practice. And the secondary component to that stands out to me, it ties to what he said at the very end, and that was highlighting some of these individuals to follow. There's so much fantastic information out there in the sports performance and movement realm. I'd encourage you to really curate your feed, your personal feed on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever it might be, and follow some of those individuals. You'll get great ideas for content yourself. You'll see how other people are doing it, and you might pick up some clinical tips along the way. Jason, what were your take-home thoughts with Josh's presentation there?
What I love so much, I'll keep it high level, is that it really gives chiropractors the opportunity to direct the conversation. And what I mean by that very specifically is if you just go, "Hi, I'm a chiropractor," most people go, "Oh, can you crack my neck?" Or "I never need one of those." Thankfully, as ridiculous as people sound. And the unfortunate reality is they sound that way because of us, because of what we are doing and because of what we're not doing. And I think Josh's presentation really points out that whether you build a gym in your practice, whether you make recommendations for exercise, it doesn't matter to me how you implement it, but the thought process behind it is that you're helping people perform at their best, perform better. There's a difference between rehab and exercise, even though some of the physical motions may look very similar, it may even be the same. The intention is different. So I really love the idea that you can sort of bring people to the conversation of high performance, of being proactive. Most people recognize that, being in shape is not something you do when you've not done anything and you've allowed yourself to become obese or overweight or whatever it may be. It is something that occurs as a natural byproduct of staying proactively moving, exercising, stretching, and knowing that a pain could interfere with that process really is a different conversation than, hey, wait until you can't take it any longer. When it hurts really badly, come on in. We'll see if we can give you a few visits to get you back doing the lifestyle that's probably caused all that damage in the first place. So I get you got to meet people where they are, but I love when docs can lead the conversation and attract people who want to literally and figuratively move in that direction.
I could not agree more. And we're going to dive into, it's a perfect segue into this week's Research That Matters segment. Here we go. So Smart Chiropractor show. We are talking research that matters. Let me bring up that little spot there on the side. And what is this segment? This is when we talk about what our smart chiropractors are doing. At the top of today's show, we discuss the 5 types of new patients and the top 3 involved free content marketing. So content marketing is what drives the engine. Teach and invite consistently within the Smart Chiropractor automations and systems. This month, it has been devoted all around the cervical spine. If you remember, we structure it in the way of monthly campaigns, weekly topics, and daily posts. Our monthly campaign is the cervical spine, one of those heavy hitting months. It is one of the primary reasons why people are exposed to chiropractic in the first place. And our weekly topic under the campaign of the cervical spine this week is the simple statement. Yes, sounds simple. Why does my neck hurt? And the reason we title our weekly topics this way is that's what people are actually questioning. That's what they're typing into Google. That's what they're literally asking you when they come face to face. You're doing an examination. Hey, why is this bugging me? Why does my neck hurt? And our weekly topic, you'll notice throughout the social posts that are going out, the blog posts that you have access to, the video scripts, all of those tools tie in to simplified research-based ways to answer this question. The foundation of the cervical spine and of the body in general is movement, as we just discussed in last segment. And whether it is a disc issue, whether it is most commonly a facet issue as we age, whether it's due to arthritic changes, whether it's due to injury, when there is suboptimal motion over a period of time, eventually that is going to catch up with you in the most simplistic fashion possible. So helping your patients understand the importance of motion. We always talk about it in terms of segmental motion, in terms of regional motion, and then whole body movement. Helping emphasize that point to your patients is so important for them to understand, well, how does an adjustment help? How does you getting in there with your hands help this pain go away? Now, of course, there's the spinal tract, there is brain function, there are all of those as well, but let's simplify it. Let's start with the basics and helping your patients understand that movement is the foundation of health. It's also the foundation of healing, is one of those important concepts that never gets old, constantly needs to be reinforced. And I think quite often us as chiropractors, we jump to the super geeky stuff because we're so in it, not realizing the limited knowledge that so many people out there have about their body. Jason?
You nailed it. I mean, people want to know, why, oftentimes they go, why are you being such a pain in my neck? But yes, it's pretty simple. If you're talking to regular people that unfortunately know very little about their bodies, and what they do know is usually wrong or misguided, or I think the new term is misinformation. They're misinformed. That's been going on for chiropractors for decades, maybe even a century or more. It is of no wonder why it's so difficult for people to just see the simple common sense of why things happen in their bodies without it coming from CNN or Fox or whoever their news drug of choice is. And that's really our responsibility and I'll dare say obligation. If you want people to think about you differently, then you've got to put out information that's going to help them understand you. And this really is a super simple question. That's why we format it this way, as Jeff said. And every month, the key to success, you know this and you tell your patients, and we're going to tell you, is consistency. And the hardest part about consistency that most chiropractors get stuck with is not the concept. Of course, we all know the concept. Yeah, of course, you got to keep on doing it. But where the breakdown happens is in the work it takes to be consistent. And wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't it be great if you could hire somebody to do the research, if you could hire somebody to, lay out the graphics and write something really intelligent but brief. It's easy to write something long. It's hard to write something brief. And give you the notes, the cliff notes, or the doctor's brief about what the topic is this month. And in fact, maybe even do the posting for you and set up the emails for you. And, in fact, maybe make sure that your social media is congruent with your email, weekly newsletter is congruent with the video streaming into your office. Wouldn't that be cool? If you could hire somebody to do all of that for you month after month after month, even give you a preview of the months to come so you can actually sort of just get into the frame of mind of doing your table talk and sharing the things you learned in chiropractic school and throughout your career in practice, month after month after month. Jeff, do you know anybody that they could hire in order to do all of that for them?
I'm setting up my tee right now with my baseball bat because you teed it up. This absolutely, that's what we do each and every day. With the Smart Chiropractor. And this segment each week is brought to you by the Smart Chiropractor. So if you are interested in teaching and inviting your way to practice success, yes, that means new patients. Yes, that means better retention. Yes, that means consistent reactivations. But it is through the lens of education, it's through the lens of invitation, and it's through the lens of really showcasing the benefits of who you are and what you do. Then head over to thesmartchiropractor.com, check out what we have going on, and hop on board. We have hundreds of docs reaching millions of people each and every month, and we'd invite you to come over and be a part of the team. And speaking of Smart Chiropractor team and Smart Chiropractor members, let's move on to our member highlights. This is one of my favorite segments, and I won't give away what we're going to talk about yet, but let's talk member highlights, where we showcase exactly the great things that our Smart Chiropractor members are doing out there online and in their communities to help build their practice. Smart Chiropractor Show member highlights. This is one of my favorite segments because it gives us the opportunity to shine the light on our docs that are doing fantastic things in their community, that are living the teach and invite philosophy, that are getting out there, maybe even stretching their comfort zone a little bit, but getting the results as a reward for it. So I'm going to show a quick video, Jason, of one of our members doing just a fantastic job teaching and inviting, doing something a little bit different. And then you and I can talk about it and showcase the highlights of what we believe Dr. Donnie Walsh is doing wonderfully online. So here is Dr. Don Walsh.
All right, guys, welcome back. Day 55. You guys are doing great. And remember, if you like the content, please don't forget to hit the like button and share this. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can get notified when we drop new videos. And yesterday's workout was a little bit more intense. It was a lot of fun. So today's going to be a little bit of an active rest day, but we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to do 3 rounds. After you've done your warm-ups, don't forget to do your warm-ups because it's very important. You want to make sure that you've done your warm-ups, that you're ready to go, you're ready to rock and roll, you're ready to activate those muscles, and they're nice and warm so we don't hurt ourselves, we don't have any injuries. So what do we want to do today? We're going to just have some fun. We're going to making it up on the fly. It is an active rest day, but we want to stay that we're moving. So we're going to just start. We've already done our jumping jacks. We're going to do a couple more. We're going to go 10 jumping jacks. 3, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Straight to 20 mountain climbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Straight to 10 push-ups. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Straight to 5 on each side of our cross crawls. 2. So 10 total. 3, 4. Remember, we don't want to shift our weight when we do cross crawls. We want to try to keep our hips and our butt kind of steady. 7, 8, I think. 9, 10. And we're going to switch from there. We're going to do 20 Russian twists. 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Straight back up. Pretty easy. And we're going to do 5 burpees. 1. You guys should be pros at burpees. 2. 3. 4. 5. Do 3 rounds. Enjoy. By this point, that should be relatively nice and easy for you guys. Enjoy the day. Day 55. If you're in Florida, the governor today Now this gym's open up back on Monday, so everyone's gonna be running to the gym on Monday. That's the fun stuff. And a week from Monday is the Murph. So, all right, guys, day 55. We'll see you guys again tomorrow for day 56. Enjoy the active rest day. Be ready for tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye.
All right, Dr. Donnie Walsh. I have actually known Donnie personally since chiropractic school. We went to Fiji together many, many moons ago. I had less hair down here, more hair up here at that point in time, but he looks as fit as ever. And that is a great example. Donnie has been a long time Smart Chiropractor member. That was a great example of what he really took hold of over the last 12 to 24 months, teaching and inviting. I was clicking quickly there, but at the beginning, he reiterated at the end, one of the things I love that he did was emphasize, stay tuned tomorrow. He showcased the consistency that he was bringing to the table, and it resulted in, I was just kind of adding up some of the numbers, thousands upon thousands of views of his daily workout videos, which for people at that time who were unable to go to the gym, you saw at the end, he said, gyms are opening up. That was a few months back. That's powerful. Talk about teaching and inviting all of those individuals. His patients tend to be an active patient base that are unable to really do what they'd like to be getting done in a gym. Now they see their doc hopping online, showcasing things live that they can do themselves at home and follow along. I think that is incredibly powerful. Jason, what were your thoughts?
Done is better than, a good something is better than a perfect nothing. Everybody can criticize everyone else, but the fact is, if you're getting content out there, you're doing something good. Nobody does their best work on their first video. None of us. The whole point is, like adjustments, your best adjustment wasn't your first one, probably wasn't even your first 100. So it is a process of getting out there and making it happen. The real questions are, what do you like to share? What do you like to teach? What can you do consistently? Some people are, in shape and like to exercise and video themselves. I see it all the time on Instagram, etc. I'm probably not that guy, but I can do a show and talk things down for hours and hours and hours. Who are you? That's the question. Do you like to do it by yourself? Do you like to do it with a team? Jeff and I love doing it. We bounce ideas back at each other. We share the responsibility and we encourage each other. We push each other. It would be easy for either of us, probably me more than Jeff, to sort of slack off and go, who's listening? Does it really matter? What do I really have to say that they don't know already? Oh, squirrel, and get distracted and move on to something else. But the key is to teach something great to an audience that's interested, invite them to take a next step, whether it's tune in next week to our video, or if you notice anything that's irritating you while doing these exercises, something may be going on, you should contact me for an evaluation, or someone wherever you're watching, because this is an international audience. And again, consistency, 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 consistency. I can say it over and over again, but that is the key to success. And that's really what it's all about, is making sure you've got systems in place and, a schedule, your routine, a way in which to make this a congruent and ongoing process, because nobody, Joe Rogan himself, did not have, 6 or 11 million viewers on his first few podcasts. It just doesn't work that way. So it is a process of earning by just showing up and doing it, sharing your heart, sharing what you know, being generous with your knowledge, and being of service to others, because you know that they need what you have to offer, just like we know you need what we have to offer. And whether there's nobody watching right now or a million people watching right now, from our standpoint, it doesn't matter, because guess what? We're showing up next week and doing it again and again and again and again, because that's how it works. So great job, great example. I probably am not going to be in my lawn exercising for the videos anytime soon, but I am. That's the key, is to find out what you enjoy teaching.
You named it, Jason. It is about finding your passion. Donnie is somebody who likes to get out there and do all the Spartan races, in the mud and all that. So it totally fits exactly who he is and what he does. And to your point, Jason, I agree. For you out there watching and listening, maybe it's an adjustment a day, showing a different technique. Maybe it is a different, image. Of course, with all of that, you want to make sure that you have the proper releases, etc. But there is a variety of different things that you can showcase in and around your practice, whether it's movement, whether it's exercise, whether it's technique, whether it's imaging, whatever it might be. Maybe it's motivation and inspiration each day. There's so many different ways you can go with it. And as you continue to show up consistently, that is what we have seen time and time again drives the results that everybody out there is looking for as they build and grow their practice. Jason?
Yeah, let me ask you a question to share with others. Some people may watch that video and go, oh, okay, I'll just do my own video every day or every week or whatever it is. What are your thoughts on why the hybrid approach of having consistent material being created and shared for you and then building your content on top of that? Maybe share with others, they may go, well, I'll do that one instead of that one, or I'll hire you, but I don't have to do that. What are your thoughts on sort of the best of both worlds?
Yeah, a hybrid approach, Jason, is the best, as you just asked and described a bit, because it enables you to hit all of the platforms. Perhaps you're passionate about Facebook. Perhaps you're passionate about Instagram. Maybe you like writing. Maybe you like video. It's nearly impossible to do them all. It's just not possible to build, grow, and scale a practice and be able to hit all the platforms with all the content and all the media that you need to. So I love the approach that we've really spearheaded here with the Smart Chiropractor, where we have you can have all of those emails going out. That is such a high ROI channel. You're not having to like copyright an email a week, your onboarding sequences, your campaigns. Get all of that taken care of, and then lean in to where you want to, put the frosting on, right? What are those areas where you're super passionate about, whether it's shooting a reel on Instagram, whether it's, a story, whether it's, TikTok and you're exploring that, go for it. I think it is fantastic when docs kind of take the bull by the horns. They take a little bit of that extra, effort and oomph. They're only going to get better results for it. But don't forget about everything else. Just shooting a video a day is not a comprehensive marketing strategy. That is a single tactic. And while the tactics are important and a part of the overall strategy, you certainly want to ensure that you are hitting all of those primary channels. So that is where a hybrid approach, you can ensure that you have your Google My Business posting, which we've seen just incredible success there. Google My Business taken care of. That if you have to be out of the office or you miss a day, something's going out on Facebook, something's going out on Instagram, even if those are your primary channels. And of course, with the Smart Chiropractor, we include video streaming, the entire Chiro email system. It's just so far beyond the scope of what a doc could do, him or herself. Even with a team member, managing it, it's just not something that you can really do unless you are a super large healthcare organization. So ensuring that you have all of those check boxes, ticked, your content marketing is going out each and every day, week, and month. Then you get to focus on the most fun aspects, which is showing up, showing your personality and passion, and doing that little extra bit that just gets that know, trust, and like factor to the next level. That's what I think about it, Jason, and what I get so excited about. How about yourself?
I think you described it perfectly. I think the visual I think of is, you take somebody like, Bruce Springsteen or Chris Martin from Coldplay, or a performer, right? They're out there. They love to perform. Now, there's a time and place for them to sort of show up and do their individual thing unplugged, and you get just the performer. But, when you look at the stadiums that are full, when you look at, the concerts that are full, usually there's a band. It's rarely one performer. And it's not just because one performer can't do the job. Of course they can. They're usually the star of the show, just like you should be the star of the show. But most of the time, even Beyonce and the others, they've got a whole team of people behind them, whether they're dancing, whether they're singing, whether they're, creating the set, whether they're selling shirts, whether they're ushering people to the seats. It takes a team to really put the whole production together for highest production value. So you should be, the Beyonce, the Bruce Springsteen, the Chris, you should be the star of the show, but understand the difference between showing up for one person doing one performance, and even if they did the same, they were their only performer consistently, it's a different experience for others. versus having a band, having groupies, having others who can help round out the experience. And I think that's just another way to sort of think about, well, I can do this myself. I like doing it. Yeah, but you can't really create the full experience and stay consistent and have the level of quality. As you said earlier, it's physically impossible. There's no one person on our team that could do all of this, and they're experts and they get paid very well to do it. It takes a team, it takes a village, and that's the way we kind of see it is have you and your team work with us and our team so we can fill up stadiums. Go watch on YouTube. You got Coldplay filling up Brazil, stadiums for multiple days. Everybody's having a party. He didn't do it by himself. He had a team. We want to be your team.
Yeah, it's all about leverage. You really need to leverage your time and talents, leverage the time and talents of others. That is how you're going to find the most success, whether it's building your team internally with your staffing, whether it's utilizing marketing services, whether it's website companies, etc. There is no question that utilizing the expertise of others, really leveraging that, can be a game changer for so many practices out there that just feel, if you feel burned out and pulled it at both ends and fried, that is a good indication that you're probably, it's shouldering a little bit too much of that load yourself. So focus on those items, that clinical care, those direct relationships in your community that you can control. And we would encourage you, whether it's with a Smart Chiropractor or whether it's with somebody else, to leverage the expertise of others. It's only going to help your practice and only going to help the profession. Jason, we have our featured guest segment coming up next, and we have a fantastic featured guest. So without further ado, Smart Chiropractor Show featured guest segment coming up right now. Smart Chiropractor Show featured guest segment today. Jason and I had the opportunity to sit down just a few days ago with Dr. Kevin Christie, Modern Chiropractic Marketing Group, Health Fit Chiro down in South Florida. Kevin just is a wealth of information and knowledge, a great guy that I've known for quite a few years. And Jason and I had a fantastic talk with him, talking about content marketing, talking about clinic operations, and much, much more. Here is our interview with Dr. Kevin Christie. Hey docs, Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. And as promised, we have a special featured guest today, a gentleman that I've known for quite a few years that has continued to do amazing things in his practice and beyond. Dr. Kevin Christie of Health Fit Chiropractic and the Chiropractic Success Academy. Kevin, thanks for taking a few minutes and coming on with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. And let me kick off with a question specifically relevant to, you have your hands in a lot of stuff. You have a successful practice. You had multi-locations. You've coached and mentored other docs. We've been talking a lot about personal development and consistency on this show over the last few weeks. What are how'd you get interested in this? And what really are those building blocks, if you had to trace things back, that have brought you where you are today? And then we'll get into some of these rabbit holes.
Yeah, definitely. I've been practicing since 2005. I graduated from Logan in St. Louis there. And ever since, when I got out, I was fully clinical. That's, I think, something that maybe people that have only known me for the last few years don't realize. But I was fully involved in clinical and had fortunate opportunities to travel on the PGA Tour and been to 12 NFL combine programs, worked with a lot of professional athletes. And I was immersed into a sports training facility in the 2006 to 2010. And I just really was fully involved in the clinical side of things. And then ultimately I opened up my own practice in a different city, not too far, like 45 minutes away. And at that point of opening up my own practice, things went well. But then by 2013, I realized I had some blind spots from a business standpoint, a marketing standpoint. And at that time, I joined a coaching group called Strategic Coach, which is for entrepreneurs. It's not industry specific. There are some chiropractors, but it runs the gamut. It's international. And they really got me thinking more like an entrepreneur, a little more business. And then that was like one of the byproducts of that was I ran into one of their members who is Joe Polish, who's big into marketing. And I started digesting a lot of his information in 2014 into 2015. And I just was, honestly using my own practice. I have an office in Boca Raton, Florida, and at the time Miami, Florida, and I just was using our practice as kind of a test lab for a lot of this marketing stuff, and it was working. And then in 2016, started a closed Facebook group called the Modern Chiropractic Marketing Group, and just provided value for a couple of years on just everything ethical, elegant marketing for more evidence-based chiropractors, and that spawned a whole other business. So it's been a lot, but I kind of look at my professional career so far through 17 years is having chapters that I've started and then closed and moved on to other chapters, and it's kind of in my nature where I'm looking to progress continuously, and whatever is next, I'm not afraid to take that on. And ultimately now here in 2022, the big endeavor for me from a chiropractic practice standpoint is I am actually exiting patient care this summer of 2022, but I will be still owning the practice and being here providing a leadership role. So that's where I'm at currently.
Kevin, that is an awesome story. There's a lot of places I know we want to go. I mean, everybody wants to know, how do you break into professional sports, and, whether it's the NFL or the PGA or wherever it is. But I'm also very curious. You mentioned, two of my favorite words, or maybe three of my favorite words, elegant, ethical marketing.
Yeah.
Tell us how do you summarize what you've learned? I know marketing means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, especially chiropractors. What does it mean to you? What is that all about? Ethical, we get, elegant marketing. I'm sure chiropractors go, what do those two things have to do with each other? How do you explain
Yeah, absolutely. That? I think one of the frustrating things a lot of let's say modern chiropractors have struggled with is the old school chiropractic marketing has been pretty cheesy, sometimes crossing the line, not really up to the standards of what maybe a doctor should be doing. And I think it turned a lot of chiropractors sour on marketing in general and considered it kind of a dirty word, which is unfortunate. And what really helped me was in 2015, I found a company called the Content Marketing Institute, which again is not chiropractic specific, but Joe Polizzi had started it. He's an interesting story. He started that from scratch and then ended up selling that for like $30 million not that long after. But it's all about content marketing. And so I went to their master classes in person, to their live event in Cleveland, really started digesting their information and applying that to chiropractic. And so to answer your question, I feel like being an educator in your community on health-related information that is, on the leading edge of evidence falls into that ethical category. And then elegant, I would say, what's great about content marketing is it's a form of invisible marketing in a sense, because people don't like to necessarily feel marketed to, especially by their doctors. So if you can do it in a way that people don't really notice your marketing, right? And you're just becoming a thought leader or a educator in your community, it will position you in such a way where people will seek you out and didn't feel like they were marketed to. So that's how I would sum it up. And that was really the foundation of what my marketing consulting is, or what I've done for my practice.
That's awesome. One of the things that comes to mind for me is we talk a lot about teach and invite consistently, and that's really the foundation by which, when we talk with docs about, how do you think about content marketing? And we always say teach and invite consistently. Make sure you're teaching, showcasing something beneficial for the patient that obviously has a tie back to the practice itself. The invitation is that call to action and staying consistent. You've been in it for a while. You've seen the ups and downs of, Facebook, you name it. You've been there, witnessed and watched it, if not been a part of it along the way. What are some of the primary channels as you work with docs through your own coaching, or through the group? What are some of those primary channels that you've utilized? Are you still utilizing Facebook and Instagram a lot? I know there's lead capture on websites, email marketing. What are some of the channels that you've seen the most success with or are the most excited about?
Yeah, obviously, back in 2016, there's a great marketing book for people out there called Blue Ocean Strategy, and talks about a red ocean, which is like the sharks in the water. Everybody's trying to go for the same thing. And then there's the blue ocean, which is wide open, right? And I remember back in 2016, that really resonated with me because if you remember, which I'm sure you both do, everybody was jumping in on the Facebook ads thing where it was like, $27 all you can eat, chiropractic, come on in. Well, try to get 100 leads into the funnel, hopefully 20 come in and 10 buy packages type of thing. And it was just like this nonstop barrage of ads, like traditional ads with a call to action, right? So, and at that time, I'm here preaching about content marketing and really trying not to put the cart before the horse, because so many people were running social media strategies with really no strategy, no substance, right? So I'm here like hammering about content marketing, and I felt like sometimes I was hitting my head against the wall, but then I stayed the course because it was that blue ocean, and ultimately I think things came around where a lot of, at least chiropractors in my audience, started to realize like, I want to leverage social media, but I got to make sure I have the fuel that actually is going to generate the types of results and patience and thought leadership that I want in my community. And so I still think Facebook ads are great. Like in my practice, we spend a good amount of money, but we shoot videos. And so what I want the audience to get from this is that, sometimes Facebook ads is almost a misnomer, because really what it can be is just a paid distribution of your content, right? So if you shoot a great video, you're going to have to put money behind it for some eyeballs to see it on Facebook or even Instagram. But it's not your traditional ad, right? It's not like the pretty girl doing this. It's actually some form of your content being distributed out. You just got to put a little money behind it nowadays. And so we take our email list and we funnel it into a Facebook audience, which it actually connects right to our MailChimp. But I know you two know that, but for the audience. And so we consistently shoot condition videos, different types of conditions we treat that may not think of. They know we treat neck and back and headaches, but sometimes they don't realize we treat carpal tunnel or TMJ or plantar fasciitis, those types of things. And so we're getting videos in front of those people that already know, like, and trust us. And so we're trying to just increase our reactivations or, our kind of our sphere of influence in our current patient base. Plus, it'll also retarget people that visited our website as well. So I love Facebook ads. I love Instagram. We're really growing that. All those platforms are still great. It's just different than what it was in 2016. You got to have that fuel to get it to go. And the social media is just a distribution channel to get it out there, right? It's like the vehicle. And if you look at it that way and you focus on the fuel and then do the strategy and tactics correct on social media, it'll be great. So that's one long-winded answer for you. But the second one, which I still think is the bread and butter for chiropractors in a lot of ways, is the hub and spoke model, which is your website. We do a lot for our chiropractic website. It's really a robust platform with a lot of content, which then really drives a lot of Google search. We have a lot of Google review. We do all those things as well. But Google is really still king if you're doing it right. You can get a lot of new patients kind of as you sleep, as they say. And so that's something I think chiropractors really need to make sure their website has all the fundamentals, right? All the the mobile friendly, the speed, all that type of stuff. Good look, good design, but it's got to have good messaging, and it's got to be a content platform, not just an online business card.
Kevin, Jeff and I both love your story, which is obviously why we're grateful that you're here and all. Help us understand. You've now built CSA, Chiropractic Success Academy. You didn't wake up one day and go, I got an idea. Why don't I coach chiropractors?
Yeah.
I'm sure it came from your journey, which is you've spent, I'm familiar with Strategic Coach. It is not inexpensive.
No.
Nor are many of the others that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Help chiropractors understand it. Do they need to go through that kind of journey in order to kind of get results? Or what are you seeing out there with, the clients you're coaching and so on? How do chiropractors sort of get the fast track to what do I need to know in today's modern world? Because there's a lot of stuff people learned over decades that no longer necessarily apply the same way. Mm-hmm. What's sort of the fast track? What are you seeing that, chiropractors that aren't going to spend tens of thousands of dollars and years or decades in some cases learning? There's a natural curiosity to those of us that do those things. But what do chiropractors need to know? What are some of the takeaways from those very, very expensive and worth it investments that chiropractors can sort of fast track today that's working? And or what are some of the really common things that you're finding most chiros doing that's actually sort of holding them back or maybe even counterproductive and they don't even realize it?
Yeah, I think the fast track, to be honest with you, is to delegate and outsource as much as you can, especially as you start to increase your revenue and profits. As we all start out, we have more time than money. But then when you start producing a good profit, you need to start having some delayed gratification. And if you've got extra 5,000 each month in profit, it doesn't mean you should go spend it on something in your personal life. Unless you haven't paid yourself at all yet, then go do that. But if you're paying yourself what you feel like, you have a sustainable personal life and you start to have extra profits, what can you reinvest into yourself and into your business? Because I do get it. We are chiropractors first, and most of the people out there, that's what they're going to be first. And you got to start to, like a strategic coach concept is unique ability, and you got to hone in on what your unique ability is and then start delegating the rest. So I depending on where I'm, who I'm consulting for marketing, if it's the doc that's established and has plenty of profits, I'm really looking at how can you start to outsource and delegate a lot of these things. I want your practice to have a fully involved marketing strategy and implementation. I don't necessarily want you doing it all, right? As the doctor. Now, if you've come to terms with that's your sweet spot and you want to stop practicing, you want to be networking and marketing and you got some great associates, then great, that's fine. That's not everybody. I would say that's the small percentage. If you're a year out and cash flow is tight and you have plenty of room on your schedule because you're still needing to grow your practice, then yeah, you probably need to be going out and, shaking hands and kissing babies and all that stuff constantly and doing a lot of the videos and all the Instagram and social media. And then once you start having that money, what's that big domino that you can outsource and get it off of your plate so that you can move on to the next thing that's going to, frankly, maximize your license, right? Like at a certain point, if you're writing the blog, might not be the best use of your time at a certain point, right? Or shooting a video. I think if you can get on camera and you're good at it, there's really no point where you shouldn't do that. Now, if you don't want to do it and you hate it, then get it off your plate for sure. So I think fast tracking is definitely finding other experts, whether it's a person or a service, to do it for you. And that's something that you kind of mentioned earlier, all the things I've got going on. And people say, how do you do all that stuff? And I was like, well, I don't, right? And that's, I've got quite a developed team around me, whether it's internally or outsourced.
Kevin, one of the things that comes up to me when you're speaking about this is really not only the fast track, but as Jason alluded to, the other side of that coin. And I know you speak with docs, and we all have our goals, our hopes, our ambitions, and what we're trying to achieve. What's maybe the number one item that you see holding docs back, as Jason said? Is it more mindset? Is it skill? What are you seeing as you're speaking with docs in terms of it's just keeping them from getting to that next level, no matter what that next level might mean to them?
Yeah, it's definitely mindset, but then let me actually tease that out because that could be 100 different things, right? I think, and then we can okay, so mindset, and then below that, like a sub is financial, right? And then below that, I'll break it down in just a couple. But one is I see too many chiropractors spending too much time with patients and not charging enough. And they think they're in a time-based economy, but they're in a results-based economy, right? So if I come to you and you can get me better in 10-minute visit versus a 30-minute visit, I'd rather, and most of your patients would rather probably spend 10 minutes in your office or 10 minutes with you and 15 minutes doing rehab with another person. But too many docs I talk to are spending 30 minutes with that patient and charging $75, right? So if I do the math, that's $150 an hour. That's massage therapy money. No offense to massage therapists, but as a doctor, you have too much education and years behind your belt in schooling. You got to get into that $250, $300 an hour minimum hourly rate because of overhead, right? It doesn't mean you're going to take home $300 an hour. You're going to have some overhead. So that would be one, because what ends up happening in that scenario is there's never enough meat on the bone. The whole term profit margin becomes important here, and they never have enough money to pay themselves what they want, let alone hire. There's a lot of chiropractors out there that don't even have front desk people, and they do this for year after year, and so they can't afford any team around them. So their schedule is booked, but there's not enough money, right? So that's one problem. And then two, under the financial thing, is I don't feel enough chiropractors are reinvesting enough capital expenditures into their business. Okay. And again, that could be anything from like, I bought my office space in 2013. So it was a big capital expenditure to purchase this thing. It's doubled in 9 years, right? Like it's been one of the best investments I've made. But then what I've realized in 2022 right now, it's getting to be about 10 years old. I need to dump about $50,000 in this thing to renovate a little bit, new paint, new flooring, like stuff gets a little bit worn, right? And that starts to impact your patient experience and stuff. So whether it's spacing, whether it's hiring team members, whether it's investing in marketing, right? Like, how many chiropractors do you guys talk about that spend $0 on any type of marketing? Right?
There's a couple out there.
Yeah, it's a couple. So I just think that docs need to start thinking about what they can reinvest in their practice. But unfortunately, too many are falling into that first category where there's not a profit margin to reinvest anything into it. So that would be my answer to that.
Right on. Kevin, help us understand what I'm going to ask is your mindset. There's a lot of chiropractors out there, as we mentioned. So some are just getting started. Some are in their early years. They're in different seasons. And here you are saying, I've been doing this 17 years now, and I'm ready to sort of, get others to come on in, do less, patient hands-on care and more other things. Help people understand, for new chiros that are getting out of school or just in their first few years, they're like, get out, I'm just getting in,
Yeah.
What's been your journey, or what do you find to be sort of the common journey? It may be hard for some recent graduates and new docs to fathom, why would you be getting out of this thing? I'm just getting into it. What's the journey in your mindset of, hands-on patient care in the beginning? You mentioned, more time than money, then you get more money than time. Then you get, as you get older, you get family responsibilities, personal growth, your own ambitions, your experience of been there, done that. What else can I challenge myself with? What's the mindset of where you are now, and how did it sort of evolve over the years?
Yeah, there's a couple great resources. Carol Dweck with Growth Mindset. I would definitely say read that. And I think just inherently I've had a growth mindset, which I feel blessed for. So I've had that. And then there's another concept with Scott Adams, who actually is the creator of Dilbert, the cartoon comics, but he's written some great books, and he talks about skill stacking. And so, when I came out of chiropractic school, I was okay, clinically, it was pretty good. And I kept on improving that skill. But then I was doing a lot of public speaking in the community. I was taking Toastmasters. Like, I knew I needed to improve my skill of communication because I wasn't great at it. So that was a skill that I stacked onto it. And then again, when I joined Strategic Coach, I stacked a skill of business understanding and then marketing, right? So I just kind of stacked those skills for me, which is now where I'm at, where it's like, okay, I can apply a lot of those skills to the private practice that can continue to grow without me being there. Obviously, the Chiropractic Success Academy, which is our online training academy. I've got the Modern Chiropractic Marketing podcast, which spawned all the consulting I do. And now we've got a mastermind down here in Florida, which actually this weekend is our first meeting. And so I've been able to stack those skills to now be where I'm at now. And I've always tried to push the envelope with that, like with communication. It went from just public speaking in my community to public speaking in conferences, to having a podcast, which I've gotten better at communicating as I do that. So it's just, I think the take home is continue to stack those skills. That's going to be to make you better at what you want to ultimately be. Now, going out and owning a Subway sandwich shop is not a skill that stacks onto chiropractic, right? So it's got to be something that stacks, and that's the whole premise of it, where you actually can apply those things to a particular profession. And so that's why I would say chiropractors to continue that growth mindset, hone in on certain skills that will improve your professional career and even personal, and keep at it. And you'll find yourself, I'm 42 now, where if you're lucky, by the time you're late 30s, early 40s, you'll start to get things figured out a bit. And then you got a nice long stretch of time where you're functioning in your unique ability, which I kind of mentioned earlier.
Kevin, I love it all. You crushed my dream of opening up a Subway with Seth Curry, but I won't hold that against you. I'd encourage everybody out there, check out the Modern Chiropractic Marketing Group. Check out CSA. You can always look at Health Fit Chiropractic. That's Kevin's practice in South Florida. And check out what he is doing day in and day out to build and grow his brand and his practice. Kevin, I really appreciate you coming on today. And on behalf of Jason and our entire team, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, that was our interview with Dr. Kevin Christie of the Modern Chiropractic Marketing Group. A couple things that I love he spoke of in that interview are fees, understanding your fee schedule. How much time are you taking with patients? Critically important, especially for new docs. Building bad habits are difficult to break as time goes on. So understanding your value proposition and your schedule, mixing that in with what your fee schedule is, critically important as you build systems in your practice. And of course, Jason, content marketing at the top of his list for building and growing a practice. What were maybe a take-home message or two that you had?
I just like so much about what he's doing in general, from his practice to helping other chiropractors to the journey he's been on, working with professional athletes and doing everything he's done to really not only help himself and his community, but really reach out and build programs to help other chiropractors. Great conversation, great guy. And it was wonderful to really see others who were just pouring their hearts into trying to make a positive difference in the world. Kudos to you, Kevin.
Indeed. So if you just caught the end of that, be sure to rewind, check out our interview with Dr. Kevin Christie. On today's Smart Chiropractor Show, we are moving along to strategic marketing. This is where we get tactical, and it is coming up right now. Strategic marketing on the Smart Chiropractor Show. Let me make sure we get our spot up there. There we go. And it is Tuesday. We're going to talk Testimonial Tuesday. If you are a member of the Smart Chiropractor Group, this might sound familiar to you. If you are not a member of the Smart Chiropractor Group, number one, head on over there if you're a chiropractor and hop into the group. Number two, let's talk Testimonial Tuesday. Jason and myself have developed a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday cadence for you to get out there and teach and invite. This is an elective. This is an opportunity to be active with your content marketing. And Tuesday is a fantastic day to highlight a case study, a testimonial of a patient, a practice member, an individual that you've worked with that's achieved an incredible result, and tie it to your monthly campaign and your weekly topic. Jason, Testimonial Tuesday, what does it mean to you?
It's exactly that. The name of the game that we want chiropractors to keep on understanding is that consistent content matters. The question is, okay, where do I get it? What do I do? How do I build systems? And so that's really the value of the framework, and having someone who can share their experience with you about the weekly topic really ties sort of the knot and the bow on the gift and makes it really simple for people to understand. It also looks very professional. And that's part of, I think, the experience that people have. It's not a flea market type of an experience where you just wake up and go, I wonder what I'm going to say today, who I'm going to talk to, what I'm going to share. It gives more higher production value. The credibility that comes not just from you sharing what you should like to share, that people look at with a sense of filter of skepticism, because of course you're going to say good things about yourself. But to see other people who also share their positive outcomes because of the experience they've had for you is absolutely invaluable. So It makes it an easy day to create content because you don't necessarily have to create it. You just have to go, wait a minute, who's had a great experience? If it's like this week, cervical, the spine, what has caused your neck pain? If somebody said, oh, thanks for teaching me what caused my neck pain. And more than that, thanks for helping me relieve it and hopefully reduce my risk of having it come back again in the future. That was an awesome outcome. But as important as outcomes, don't forget, make sure you remember, as important as outcomes is the experience with you and your practice. There are plenty of people that have waited too long to receive your care, may not have the miracle outcome. They didn't get their hearing back. Maybe they still suffer with these issues on a chronic basis because they waited so long. But the experience in your office and the improvements they experience in their life, regardless of whether this is a magical gone forever type of a condition or that you're helping them manage it on a regular basis, the experience in your office and the benefits they can have in their life, what our friend Stephen Franson refers to as the life effect. If they weren't able to work and they now can, if they weren't able to exercise and they now can, if they weren't able to do something that was important to them and now they can, even though they may be managing the symptom, don't forget, every story does not have to be some miraculous, I restored their hearing type of a testimonial. Find the places that people find improvements in their lives and are grateful to you for it. Share those experiences. And remember, when you feature somebody, let them know you featured them because in many cases, they'll share their feature with their friends and family. And if you know our 5 types of new patients, you'll remember that the best type of new patient you can have is to keep your current patient. The second best type of new patient you can have is a referral from your new patient. This is a tactic that helps accelerate exactly that type of new patient.
Bringing it back to the 19th century, restoring the hearing, the first adjustment. All right. I'll give one tactical tip on our way out of this strategic marketing segment, and it's a slightly different spin on this. Also, don't forget about emphasizing a case study. So even if you don't have the patient there with you, you can have a great opportunity. I'll give an example right now. I'll just kind of ad lib one as it ties to cervical spine. You may hop on and say something to the effect of, hey, this is Dr. Jeff at Langmaid Chiropractic. This month, we're talking all about your neck. This week, we've been discussing, why does my neck hurt? That made me think of Sally. Sally came in here. She had seen multiple different doctors, had no idea what was going on, just that her neck had been bugging her, kept her from doing life effect, life effect, life effect. And after Sally came in, we were able to do a complete evaluation. We were able to discover exactly the cause and source of her pain and give her a treatment plan where she has gotten back to doing those things that she loves with the people she loves. If that sounds like you, please don't hesitate to give us a buzz today and hop on our schedule so we can evaluate and get you on the road to relief. So that is an ad-libbed version, but you can play with that. You can be flexible with that. And if you want the scripts for that, you're going to have to head over to the Smart Chiropractor group. So head over to the Smart Chiropractor group. Be sure to join. That gives you access to each and every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We post our daily video scripts. Testimonial Tuesday is one of them. We'll showcase others as the weeks go by. Jason, I think it is time for us to move into our business principles segment. Last segment on today's Smart Chiropractor show, and here it comes. Business Principles on the Smart Chiropractor show. The title of this segment, you might blink twice thinking or hearing this. What can your practice learn from a $1 billion unicorn? Jason and I follow a lot of technology and specifically health and wellness related tech companies, and D2C as they call it, direct to consumer companies. One of them that crossed that threshold in the not too distant past was a company called Athletic Greens. And in my belief, and I think Jason feels the same way, there's a lot that we can learn as chiropractors from some of these large scale companies. Jason, I'll have you take it away right there.
Well, what we've been teaching and what you'll soon see as you get more exposure to the Payday Practice book that we've put out and soon to be training that we're coming up with is really a shift in how chiropractors, I'll dare say how all service professionals, we are service professionals, think about providing our service. In fact, just the business model in general. Most of us as chiropractors have been taught, you provide a service, they pay you for that service, mission accomplished. Now, things get complicated because you provide a service, and in the best case, the person pays you for that service, but in more likely than not, depending on what state you're in, a third party pays you for that service. It complicates it a little bit more. The main issue to know about that model, as functional as it is that it's far from optimal. Meaning you can get away with doing it. It works, it's functional. You provide a service, you get money, there you go. But as you get older, as you hopefully learn more, as your values evolve from being a student, being a recent graduate, living in, at least I'll speak for myself, the bubble of, well, me, my energy, and my two hands, we're going to save the world. And we can, because I don't have products I have to sell. I can just help everybody with my two hands and my time. When kids come into play and mortgages come into play and spouses come into play, priorities evolve and shift and change. And at some point, many of us ask the question, is this really a business, or do I just have a job? And the reason you ask that question is because oftentimes you recognize that you're only really earning when you're transacting. And in the event that some people recently discovered that if you had to close your practice, I don't know, due to a pandemic or something like that, then that transactional nature is very vulnerable for your business. Now, if you contrast that with what Jeff mentioned, Athletic Greens being a subscription-based business, meaning most people, whether it's Athletic Greens, and you can go down a whole list of things that you subscribe to. You can think of Amazon. Many of their products, consumables especially, have subscribe and save options. You've got different types of programs out there. We can talk Apple and all of the Apple services as they've shifted from products to services that have a monthly recurring revenue component to it. You can look in today's news at Peloton as another example. The value of Peloton is not in the bike, it's in the subscriptions. And that's why you've got big companies now looking potentially to acquire them. The mindset of today and the future for your business acumen is to figure out where and how can you generate monthly recurring revenue. And Athletic Greens is a great example of it because, it is not easy. Every chiropractor can attest. It is not easy to attract a new client. And if you're living in the transactional world, then your business, your time, your focus, your investment tends to be heavily focused on always getting new clients, new patients. But when you shift into, and I didn't say don't do that, but when you include a subscription component, think about a membership to your practice, think about some of your favorite products that people may ask you about every single day. Hey, doc, do you take a daily supplement? Do you do any kind of green drink or daily multivitamin? Or are there certain things, like I hear a lot about vitamin D? Should I be taking that? Most of you would answer, yeah, you should be taking it daily. And you probably say that to just about everybody who asks you that question. And you might even suggest it to those people that don't know to even ask you the question. Here's what we know. An extremely high percentage. I want to do this survey one day. But for right now, and I can tell you, an extremely high percentage, more than not, are usually buying supplements that they take daily from someone somewhere. And it's more likely than not that they're probably buying an inferior product than what you would normally recommend. And if they're like most of us, myself included, you buy a bottle, you get excited, you go through it, and then you just sort of maybe stop, because that means you got to go to the store again and come up with another 30, 40, 50, 60 bucks. And it's just not convenient to say sustainable. So what if you thought of selling as serving. And what if you thought about the people who are in some way already investing in their health in other areas that you might be able to help serve your clients with your favorite products, and maybe even have them drop ship to their door on a monthly recurring basis for their convenience. And wouldn't you know, that's exactly what Athletic Greens does. They drop ship products to clients' doors month after month after month after month. They keep in touch with them on social. They keep in touch with them via email. And they build a community and a conversation around these everybody, everyday products. And I think the learning experience, the opportunity, is to ask yourself as a chiropractor, what are some of the everybody, everyday products my clients are or should be consuming for their health? Not just because it's another stream of income, not just because you can make more money, not just because, well, I can sell them something and it's easy, but because it's actually the right thing to do. Most people should be taking these supplements, and the convenience of drop shipping it to their house on subscription is actually to their benefit and yours. So these are great examples. You're going to hear Jeff and I talk about these over and over and over again. It's this business model we use. When you learn about our 5 types of new patients, you'll understand why it is so important that the number one best type of new patient to have is keeping your current patient or client or subscriber or member, whatever you want to think of them as. So think in terms of monthly recurring something, monthly recurring services, monthly recurring products. What are things that your clients do and or should be doing, taking, consuming on a monthly basis? And how can you build that into some sort of membership or subscription? Jeff, we know this is a big idea that our profession has really never been exposed to. I'm not sure why other experts are not bringing this conversation to our profession, but we're here doing exactly that. And I'll just close before I ask you your thoughts on it by understanding the benefits of doing this. The benefits of having monthly recurring revenue that at least meets your monthly recurring revenue is that you can now practice financially stress-free. When you've got the certainty and confidence that every month your staff will be paid, your rent will be paid, your mortgage will be paid, your monthly expenses that you know will be there month after month after month after month, the cost of doing business and the cost of living, when you know you've got dependable monthly recurring revenue to cover those expenses, your life changes, I promise you. Jeff, what were some of your takeaways?
Much of what you described, creating recurring revenue is one of the most important things, in my opinion, that any business owner can do. And as a chiropractor, you are a business owner. Your practice is your business. It's your livelihood. And a fee-for-service model is a fantastic way to build a practice. Recurring revenue is a fantastic way to build a business. And that enables you to have the ever elusive passive revenue stream. And that is month to month. Those are those recurring products, consumable goods, as they would be called in the industry, things that you utilize every day. Supplements are the easiest example of it, although it can go far beyond that. They are the best and easiest example. And not surprisingly, they tie directly into who we are and what we do as chiropractors. It doesn't mean you need to become a functional medicine specialist, a functional medicine doctor. What are those everybody, everyday supplements? A multi, greens drink, D, a probiotic, sleep, omegas. These items that most people should be taking most of the time, and then enable them to purchase off of you in an easy fashion. That's having an e-commerce store. That's why we spent a lot of time, effort, and energy building out our Smart Care store system. Right now, exclusively available to Smart Chiropractor members, but coming to profession as we launch the Payday Practice this year. Jason, we have had a great show. Closing thoughts on today's show. I'll kick it over to you.
Closing thoughts on today's show. Listen, there's a lot of ideas out there that are essential to learn from others, that you should be building a tribe, that your mindset matters, that you should start with why you do what you do, and you should build automatic revenue every single month. These are time-tested business principles out in the world that have helped many people thrive in their businesses. And they're the same principles that we should be applying in our chiropractic practices worldwide. Now, good ideas are good ideas, but execution is everything. And the key is, how do you take those good ideas and implement them into your practice on a sustainable basis? And that's ultimately what we're here to try to help guide you to do. We know that there's some of you that want to do it all yourself. You want to create it yourself. It's your voice, it's your image, it's your picture, and you're a do-it-yourselfer, and that's awesome. And we want to help guide you down that pathway so that you can get it done. We know on the other end of the spectrum, there are those of you that love the idea but hate the extra work it takes to do it, or would do it, but the expertise is actually important, that it's not something anyone can do. It requires expert knowledge. And so wherever you are on that continuum, Jeff and I are here each and every week, as we say, every Tuesday, so you can tune in and tune up your practice and your life. What does that mean? That means that like people should be getting checked on a regular basis to make sure that they are as clear and connected as possible on a proactive basis so they can optimize their health and well-being, we feel the same way about you and your practice. That each and every week you should be joining us to figure out what's one thing you can learn to make an improvement. You may learn a lot more than one, but let's hope that there's at least one thing you get. And if you'll do that consistently, and we're here to support you through that process, you will find the exponential growth and change over time. Jeff and I do what we do because we love chiropractic and we love helping chiropractors help more people. That's the vision. That's the hope. That's the goal. We are living in, as far as I'm concerned, the most insane times I've ever seen. I can only imagine what it's been like in, centuries past, generations past. But for right now, we're living in the bizarro world. And I just ask myself, if we as a group of chiropractors can't stand up and speak some sort of truth, helping people understand the pathway to getting themselves healthier, clearer, more connected, and stronger and more powerful. And I'm not saying we have to commit what I call social suicide by saying things that'll immediately get you censored. We all understand all of that. But that doesn't mean you can't say anything. The question is, what can you say? What can you be teaching and inviting over and over and over and over that you feel good about, that your people want to learn and know more about? And how do you build the systems to do it consistently is what this is all about. We show you mindset, we give you business strategy, we share examples, we give you clinical conversation so you can become a better clinician, because it isn't all about marketing and communications. You've got to provide great skills too with your hands or whatever tools that you do. But that's why Jeff and I do this each and every week. We hope you'll join us. We hope you'll put this show on your schedule, whether you watch it live or watch the replay. I practice during that time. No problem. Watch the replay. No problem. But schedule it as part of your weekly mind adjustment. Let us work together and help us build this community of chiropractors that want to give, love, share, and do out of their abundance, meaning they don't show up for work because they have to. They show up for work because they want to serve more people. And they can do it in a way that allows them to afford to tell the truth. That you don't come to practice year after year after year, constantly frustrated. Why don't people get it? I'm always short of new patients. Why are those darn insurance companies always cutting my fees? You all have plenty to complain about, and you'd be right in complaining. Except that complaining doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't promote or help you grow. In fact, if you do it too much, it changes your brain in a really negative way. So what can you do? What is the bright side? What are the opportunities? In a world of insanity, where is there something sane? And I'll simply close by saying that the sanest thing I can think of you doing is to eliminate the financial stress in your life. You'll have other stress. You'll have relationship stress. You'll have health stresses. You'll have other stresses. But if you can eliminate the one that tends to be people's largest stress, which is money, if you can eliminate that by having the confidence that every month you've got recurring revenue coming in to at least meet your recurring expenses, your world will be different, and you will accelerate your practice growth. You will accelerate your joy and fun. And I dare say your relationships might get better as well, because you don't always have to sacrifice them because you need to make more money. Many of you know what I'm talking about. If this makes sense to you, tune in each week with us, and I'm going to ask you a favor. Share it with people that you know that should be watching too. Jeff, your thoughts?
I agree with everything that you said. Decreasing stress, creating recurring revenue, and stepping up your lifestyle. And that doesn't mean spending more. It means having more fun. It means connecting with more people. And it means being yourself, whether that's within the four walls of your practice. That should also be a reflection of what you produce online. So I hope everybody watching takes a couple, take home messages, some of the, whether it's a clinical pearl, whether it's a marketing strategy. That is why we spend the time each and every week interviewing other experts in the field, sharing some of the knowledge we've picked up along the way. And we invite you to continue to join us each and every Tuesday for the Smart Chiropractor Show. This has been a fantastic show. So if you're just tuning in, be sure to rewind, check out all the segments you missed. Otherwise, we'll look forward to catching you next Tuesday. On behalf of Dr. Jason Deitch, I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid and our entire Smart Chiropractor team. Have a fantastic day in practice, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to the Smart Chiropractor. We are posting videos on how you can market your chiropractic practice in a way that teach and invites consistently. We have found that is the magic formula to big time growth. So if you like this video, be sure to comment down below, smash that subscribe button, or visit us at thesmartchiropractor.com.